Hello, everyone. Welcome to this GRIDtalk webinar. My name's Jody. Today, we're going to be talking about AI-driven quality assurance in project delivery. This is part of a series of webinars, so keep an eye on our website for new ones as they come up, and you can register for new webinars there. Before we get started, quick introduction. I am joined by my colleague, Mark.
Hello, everyone.
If you want to introduce yourself, Mark, tell us about yourself.
Yes, sure. So I am a senior developer here at MethodGrid. I also lead on all of our AI things. I'm also a PhD researcher at Durham University, looking at AI, specifically how large language models, ChatGPT, etc., how they sort of think internally, how they make decisions. Yeah, glad to be here for that.
And I'm Jody. I'm head of product and technology at MethodGrid. I'm also one of the co-founders. And today we are going to run through a couple of things. So firstly, we're going to run through a prototype demo that we did at our GRIDtalk live event in Bath. That was well received there. So we thought it'd be worth showing it to a wider audience here on a webinar. And then a slightly shorter design prototype walkthrough around AI document drafting. So the first one we're going to dive straight into. This one has a full prototype demonstration, albeit it is just a prototype at this stage. But if I tee that up before Mark shares his screen and takes us through a demo. So we're looking here at how AI could help with quality assurance. At our live event in Bath, we asked our attendees to come along with challenges that they thought we could build prototypes that AI could solve. And this was one of the challenges from that event that went all the way through to become a prototype. And we demoed that prototype at that event, and we'll demo it again now for you. So here, in terms of the challenge presented was that organizations can struggle with the sheer quantity of templates, particularly Word templates that are being filled in by project teams. And could AI be used to quality assure documents that are templates that are filled in and then uploaded? So the problem statement you can see there, there's lots of documents going up. It's various quality. You want to make sure everyone's using the template correctly, putting in the right content. It's kind of hard to solve traditionally because of the sheer volume. You literally need someone to manually check. And it clearly lends itself quite well to an AI-based solution.
Yeah,
so,
it definitely does. One thing I will add, which I mean, we always make this point, and we're going to probably make this point about 10 times in the video, is that this is not, we're not suggesting this as a replacement for that human evaluation, that human feedback. This is, as ever with anything AI, there still needs to be a human in the loop. There still needs to be the human assurance as well. This is just part of a larger assurance package, essentially.
That's right. Yeah. And in fact, one of the I put a few example possible questions at the end of this demo. And in there, a few questions around, is this just going to replace manual checks or not? Or is we just going to live alongside them? So before I hand over to Mark and go into the demo, if you've got questions, there's a questions tab where you can type in questions. I think my colleague Tom is putting instructions in the chat. I'm also going to put a poll live now, which would be great if you could vote on that. So essentially, we're asking, you've read that problem statement and the solution. Is this something you sympathize with? Is it important to your organization? I'll leave that vote up there while Mark goes through it. You might change your mind how you feel about it when you see the demo, but feel free to vote. That'd be really helpful. We can see whether this is something that is of interest to everyone. Okay, so Mark, I think we go straight into the demo now. Let's have a look at it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so here we have a grid for a project within MethodGrid. It's got all the usual stuff, all your stages, all of your themes, and within this grid, there's different elements that require us to upload a document to evidence that we've done the task that's been assigned to us. And we're going to see that we're going to use this template assurance to give us feedback on the document that we're presenting as evidence that we've uploaded the task. It's going to give us feedback on whether or not that document conforms to the template we've given it. So firstly, we're going to look at this strategic brief element. And you can see here, I'm assigned to this. And it's got all the usual things you'd have in this sort of element, definitions and hints and tips, purpose of the deliverables, things like that. One of the things here is this template, and this is the template for what Jody was just talking about, and I would be expected to fill in for this deliverable. I'll quickly show you what the template looks like. So this is our strategic brief template. It's got a list of sections here. These are all the sections that I need to fill in. Generate my strategic brief. For each of the sections, it then has a description of what should be in there. It's got some examples, it's got some quality criteria of specifically what should be in this section. I'm not going to read them all out in detail, but you can see, it's got all these different sections, and for each of them, a description of what should be there and some quality criteria that my upload document needs to conform to. And I will quickly now show you the document that I'm going to be uploading. So this has been written based on that template for a specific project. It's got all the same sections. It's got the project's vision and objectives here. It's got the scope and the scale. And this is quite a good example of a strategic brief document. So, hopefully we're going to get some good feedback from the AI on it. So here I have this task to upload this document. And this is a feature that's in MetaGrid now, that you have to evidence certain tasks before you're allowed to complete them. So I'm going to open that up. I'm going to upload that file that I've just shown you. And what's going to start happening now is the file is going to be uploaded, and the AI is going to start having a look at it. It's going to compare it to the template we have in the elements. And there we go. So it started. And what it's going to do, here we go. It's given us an overall kind of judgment based on how well we've conformed to the template. It says we have done it pretty well. You can see it there on the task in the element. It's given us a score for each of these different criteria. So the template compliance, how well does it conform to the structure of the template? The section compliance, how well does each section of the document I've given it? How well does each section conform? What should be in there? A readability score, given us a slightly lower readability score, and then the quality criteria. How well does the document conform to the quality criteria that's in the template? And then here it's got a summary of the overall feedback. I'm not sure how well people can read this on the screen, so I'll read out a bit of it. So the overall summary it's given us: the project brief adheres closely to the template, effectively covering all required sections with clear and comprehensive content. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you can see it's pretty good feedback. It's given us a couple of tasks that it thinks that could be improve it. So it's given us consider adding a section on lessons learned from similar projects to enhance the risk management strategy. It's a pretty good task. Ensure all sections are consistently formatted for better readability. You can see there it's given us a slightly lower readability score, and then it's given us a task for make sure it's formatted consistently across all the sections. And then for each of the sections in the document, it's given us a bit more detailed feedback. So it's gone through all of the sections that are in the template. I'll just quickly switch back so you can see.
Do you want to zoom in a bit, Mark, on the word?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so you can see in the template here, it's got project vision, objectives, scope and scale, budget and funding, and then in the template, in the feedback it's given us, it's gone through each of those sections and it's given us specific feedback for each of those sections. So the project and vision objectives, it's telling us that the project brief clearly articulates the vision and objectives, aligning with the template requirements, define overarching goals and intended outcomes. It addresses sustainability, inclusivity, and future adaptability, which are key quality criteria outlined in the template. So you can see it's not just looking at the document I've given it, it's actually looking at the template as well. It's looking at what the quality criteria is for each of the sections, and it's specifically referencing the quality criteria in the template when it's giving us our feedback. And so that's the overall thing. I do have another quick example to give you. Jodie, I don't know if you've got anything to add to that before we kind of move on. I know we've got a ton of designs to kind of show people and stuff as well.
Yeah, so also you'll see there's all sorts of buttons on Mark's screen. We'll take through what some of those could do. For the purposes of the prototype, though, we really just wanted to have to demo that the AI can take your word template, and within that word template, you've actually given the AI the guidance it needs in order to check the template. So it's receiving one that's been filled in by a team member, and it's comparing that to some good quality criteria, and it's giving you that report at the end. I think would agree fairly instantly.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what you've just said. A really good point. Is that the criteria it's judging it on is also being provided by you. That's not something we have added. It's getting it from the template you have uploaded and comparing it to the document you have uploaded. Yeah, so you are completely in control of the template and of the criteria it's being judged against. Yeah, that's a really good point. So I'll show you another quick example now as well, because the reason I think it's important to kind of show this example is whenever this is a problem with AI generally. It was quite a big bit of news about a month or so ago. OpenAI released a new version of ChatGPT and then sort of very quickly withdrew it. And the reason was because when people were using it, what they found it was just massively sycophantic. So it would just agree with almost anything the user said, or it would give really positive feedback about anything the user said, regardless of how good it actually was. And this is a problem with AI models generally. They have a bit of a tendency to be quite sycophantic. It's quite a well-known thing. I mean, there are technical reasons for it. I won't go into them in too much detail, but essentially there's a phase of AI model training that's called reinforcement learning through human feedback, where AI essentially gives humans two different options and they have to select which one they prefer. And then based on the human's choices, the AI starts to learn, okay, this is how I should respond. Now, the problem you can kind of get into with that is if you give a person two different responses and one of them agrees with them and one doesn't, or one of them gives positive feedback and one of them gives negative, people are probably going to prefer the positive one. And so the AI essentially just learns, oh, I should always be really positive. I should always agree with what the person said, which obviously is a problem, especially if you're using the AI to give you hopefully objective, honest feedback on a document. So this is something we're sort of very aware of, especially when we're building something like this that's specifically designed to give people feedback. We want to check for that. We want to kind of guard against that sycophantic AI behavior. So another quick example I'm going to show you here is the opposite of what we've just seen. It's a document that we have put together, which, as you can see, does not in any way conform to the template that it's supposed to. It's got a lot of spelling mistakes in it. The project overview says we are doing something with an old building by the water in Liverpool. It's going to be turned into like flats or shops or something. It's important because it's old and we want to use it again.
Now, just before we upload that one, sorry, there's a quick question in the chat for someone who joined late. So they're just asking, I just joined, do we have to upload the completed template and then it will be scoring evaluated? So you'll actually see that now. So you'll see that in the second example. But in MethodGrid, you can put in the element, you can put the template itself. And on our prototype is just finding that template and realizing that's the one you're using and that's the one it's comparing it to. And then our tasks some tasks can require a document to be uploaded as evidence that it's been completed. So it's in our prototype, it's at that point that you upload it that it's getting that score.
Yeah, exactly. So this is, within MethodGrid here, this is one of the elements. This would have been prepared, by the project manager, and they will have uploaded templates to say when the person working on this comes to complete this task, this is the template they need to conform to. And yeah, as Jody was just saying, this idea of requiring evidence is already featured in MethodGrid. So I, as the person delivering the thing, when I come along and I go to upload my documents, which I'm going to do here, the AI is now going to start giving me some feedback on it again. And it hopefully isn't going to be positive, because it certainly shouldn't be. Yeah, can you see here, it's given us an overall major non-conformance, given us some pretty low scores for each of these sections. Some of the feedback here: project brief requires significant improvement to align with the template. Key sections such as design and technical requirements are missing. Existing sections lack detail and specificity. And then it's given us a longer list of tasks that it wants us to do. And you can see here as well the fact that one of the sections it's referenced sections that are missing. It's not just giving us feedback based on the document we've uploaded. It's clearly looking at the template because it's picked out something that's missing that should be in from the template that isn't in there in the document we've uploaded. So yeah, that, like I said, that's I think just an important example to show that it's giving us feedback based on the document. If the document's bad, it's going to tell us the document's bad, essentially. But conversely, if the document's good, it's going to tell us as well. So if there's anything else to add on those demos there before we move on.
If anyone's got any questions, James has typed a question. It's more of a compliance tool as opposed to assurance tool. I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's very much a prototype. So yeah, we have got some sort of wording there that in terms of those panels at the top that it's giving it a RAG score to. We probably see this of when it actually hits production MetaGrid. You'd be able to, we suspect we would have people assign those themselves as opposed to us dictating what the actual compliance criteria or assurance criteria would be. So we'll probably bring in, we are in the process of bringing in AI settings for source grounding. We'll probably bring in AI settings for kind of how you want this AI to score your templates as opposed to us dictating what that score could be. And then you could set your own 0 to 100 score or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to say about that is, as you say, Jody, it's a prototype to kind of demonstrate the AI giving you some feedback in terms of how this would integrate within a project life cycle. This could be part of a stage gate where you need to get a certain level of performance before you can progress to the next gate. Things like that. And how this fits into the project life cycle is still it's still very much things we're discussing and working on.
Yeah, we're very much in the prototype demo stage. Okay, we'll hover there. We can, if we go back to, we have got one quick question. Hang on. So James has followed up. When I assure documents, it's more of a subjective technical assessment on the submission from the project manager. Yeah, we do probably see this sitting alongside a manual check. That's what you want to do. I don't think I think what AI can do is give the person who's uploading it its first take on whether AI thinks it's hit the criteria before it even needs to go to a person. So you can see how, in terms of volume and in improving quality, that person's getting instant feedback. They haven't got to wait for the PM or whoever to go and check that document and then provide feedback. The AI is taking a good first pass at it based on a criteria that can be set by yourselves.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, there's a couple of different ways I think you could look at this sort of tool. One is, as you just said, this is a first gate before it gets to the manual review. As a kind of project manager, there's a case of, is this template even worth me looking at now? Is it just going to waste my time looking at this now? Is it even in a state that's ready to be kind of submitted to me? So there's that kind of gating that thing. The other way of looking at it, I think, which I think we've sort of alluded to here, is kind of as a training tool almost for sort of more junior team members. Getting them to get feedback on their own first draft for their own benefit before they then go on to kind of submit it properly and get feedback.
Yeah, I think that's important. It's that you're getting that first bit of feedback. You're not getting it from a peer. You're just getting it from hopefully a very neutral machine who says, oh, well, you might want to improve these areas. And you can instantly then go ahead and do that and keep uploading it until you're happy with your compliance score. And then it could go for a manual check.
Yeah, that's certainly one of the use cases we discussed. Yeah, I think there's an element, I just say, of, because it's an AI rather than a person, there's an element of psychological safety to kind of just saying to it, this is my first draft. Could you give me some honest feedback, please? And you're not going to take it personally if it's like, yeah, this bit needs improving. that might be more difficult to do if you're going to your boss and saying, here's my first draft, and give me some feedback.
Yeah, exactly. There's a quick question of Gareth. Content quality, I assume, is the biggest challenge. Does the system learn what is good content beyond good English and following the template?
Yes. So the criteria itself that it's using is defined in the template we've uploaded. So you can say to it has to have this certain content, and it has to be formatted in this way, or it has to meet this certain level of quality. So certainly, yes, that's something you can define in the template. I think as ever with any sort of AI system, both for us building the system and I think for people using the system, there's an element of trial and error, of kind of adaptively improving it. So you might find that the template you have, that you're giving the AI instructions, right? It might be that the template you have isn't detailed enough, and you may need to tweak. Think of it as a kind of prompt engineering exercise where you're tweaking your template so that the AI can better understand it, to give you more detailed feedback or more relevant feedback to what you want.
That's good. Thanks, Mark. I'll bring up the presentation again. We have got a few other. Oh, hang on, one more. Is there a defined standard that specifies a minimum percentage threshold that everyone must meet during quality checks? Let's say 80% score. So yeah, for this one, Mark, we have just sort of arbitrarily set a number for the purposes of the prototype, but I think we would allow the account administrator to decide what that criteria is going to be in the final product. I don't want to explain how it does it at the moment, Mark.
Yeah. So for now, I'd say it's kind of just hard coded. These are the categories we want. Roughly, this is what each kind of score would correspond to. But certainly, that's something, as Joe says, that we would want to give people some control over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So there's a follow-up question now. So from an ISO perspective, the system does the check and the peer review. It still needs to be a human input prior to approval. You could put that step in, and I suspect around this AI tool we would put manual traditional click UI to approve things as well. So we can the AI can do it or the human can do it. It looks the same. And we'll flag up.
I think from
by the AI, which one's been done by the human.
Yeah, definitely. From kind of UI point of view within the prototype, it was to get a prototype working essentially. Certainly in any production environment, it would be very, very clear this feedback was given by an AI. This was the human feedback. It's just it's part of the overall kind of package. We would never want to present this as is it in any way implying that a human has reviewed it when they haven't, or as the AI said it's good, therefore it's good enough. We certainly wouldn't present it like that.
Yeah, clearly identified when it's AI reviewed. Quick question on the model we're using. Do you send it via ChatGPT or another one? Can the user choose? And how is the information protected?
That is a very good question. So currently for this prototype, this is running on the same infrastructure that MethodGrid's production servers are running on, which is our own Azure instance of OpenAI's models. Now, running it on our own Azure instance means that it's completely sort of protected in terms of, it's not being shared with OpenAI, with anyone else. It's not being used to train any models. Your data's not, it's not going to leak out to anyone else because they've used the same model. It conforms to all the same standards that the rest of the MethodGrid infrastructure does. In terms of the other things as well about countries, currently this, again, as all of the kind of production MethodGrid AI, it's all hosted in the UK. The data never leaves the UK. It's not stored outside the UK. It's not processed outside the UK. That's always an important one that people ask about. In terms of choosing, so currently with the prototype, no. However, and this is a big thing we've talked about recently, because I think it's something that people are increasingly concerned about. Can they choose what model they're using, or can they bring their own model, essentially? And that is something we have planned generally in the future for there to be a sort of configurable section where you can say, for all of the AI, I want you to use this model, and you give it your kind of your API endpoint, whether that's you want to use Gemini model, an Anthropic model, or your own self-hosted one, and then our server will just talk to that AI whenever it needs a response from AI. So certainly that is long-term, that is the plan, certainly.
Yeah. Okay, got a couple more. Does the AI, if asked, provide content to be populated into the template, or just indicates what areas need improving? So that's interesting. That's a good question as well. And actually, that will be I'm going to go back to the slides in a minute, and you'll see some ideas around how that could work. And actually, the next section of a designed prototype we're looking at is how AI can actually help the person fill in the template in the first place, not just assure at the end. So yeah, keep that question open. It will be answered in the next bit. Does this work with different document types? DWG drawings is interesting.
So currently, in terms of the prototype, it's only tuned for using Word documents, but it could use other documents. I think it would work best with PDFs, things like that. But again, as we move this into the future, it's becoming a more sort of production feature. Testing different document types and getting it to work with different document types is certainly one of the things we would look at. And obviously, looking at what the standard document types within major industries that our clients would want to be able to program.
Yeah, I think it should be, well, not trivial, but fairly simple to connect it to a different model that can then work with drawings and work with images and recognize what it's supposed to see, as long as it's got a good criteria to compare it against.
Yeah, broadly speaking, if an AI model can process with that file type generally, there's no reason this feature wouldn't be able to kind of plug into that and use it.
Yeah. Okay, let's pop back to the slides here. So we've seen that's the working prototype. So in the prototype, we've got you fill in your template in Word, just working in your normal tool, and you upload it. Then the AI is giving you a feedback score. It was kind of as far as we got with the prototype at this stage, but we did sort of explore the idea around this a little bit further. So here we're looking at a standard element in MethodGrid with all its information around it, and you can see the tasks there. There's a little one to indicate on that document icon that there is a piece of file evidence on that task, and you can see whether it's got a major non-conformance or not. So we've seen that. Then we click on that. That's going to open up your report with actions and things that you might want to do. But you'll notice we've put a few of our other AI buttons around here, which comes straight back to answer that question, actually, is can it help the person improve the template? And this is where it kind of logically makes sense, that because AI LLMs are particularly good at writing content, why could they not help you do it? So, we've kind of, step through these are just screenshots, designs of how it could work. But the summary there has an AI button, which if you trigger, we can pass it the document, and then it can take that summary and the things that are recommended in it and help you build out version 2 of the template to include that. And then by the same token, do that for each section. So if it's provided feedback or you've got non-conformance maybe on that section, you could hit the AI and it's going to then prompt you through making that section better and actually then completing the Word document for you. And of course, if you've got a task, the AI could help you complete the task. In all cases, it's essentially it's writing the document based on prompts that the user would then give it. So the AI might say, well, the task is to do this. I'll have a go, send back what I'm going to put in. User looks at it, says, yes, that's fine, or no, can you change it a bit? Sort of the classic AI chat interface, really, backwards and forwards until document is output, they're happy with it, and it can go through the assurance again.
Yeah, and I think, again, we're going to keep making this point. We're not trying to replace humans writing these documents. It's very much using the AI as a tool to help you write the document. And I think that the point, the question about is it a case of the AI marking its own homework? Certainly, yes. If you just said to the AI, can you write the entire document for me, and then submitted it for, without any sort of editing or kind of critical analysis of what the AI has written, certainly yes, it would just be the AI judging its own work.
Yeah. Okay. If there's no more questions on the quality assurance bit, we'll move in. We've got some, I kind of put up some questions here that might prompt people to think about, how this could work when it goes through a lot of iterations from a prototype to becoming something that's production ready. There'll be features that need to go into it. I'll leave that slide there for a minute because it sometimes prompts questions. If that sort of prompts a question in your mind, then feel free to ask it. But you can see the sort of things we need to take into account. Once you've got a lot of templates up there, do you want these then to be centrally managed in Method Grid so you can actually see how many times these templates are being used, what kind of quality score each one's getting, which ones are being filled in poorly, which ones might indicate which ones are hard to fill in? You can see how that report could be really useful. The age-old question of whether these things are uploaded into Method Grid or stored on SharePoint. I always sort of pause at that point with the SharePoint thing. It's probably kind of important to know, Mark, that even if you store something on SharePoint, you would have to give the AI access to go and get that document.
Certainly, yeah. At some point the AI needs to access the document, and then the important question, as we had in the chat before, is, what's the AI doing with the document? Where's the AI hosted? Who controls the infrastructure it's hosted on? All those sorts of things.
Yeah. So it's interesting in this case. It really kind of just uses it once. And then kind of forgets about it, really, in many ways. It's not.
Yeah, it's certainly not being used to train the AI model or anything like that.
No. So that's comes back to that. You always got to ask that question: what's the general confidence trust level here with these? We know it's massively important to our clients. That's why we have a very siloed UK hosted instance of OpenAI that's hosted on Microsoft Azure. And that's where it is. And we can, it's easy enough for us to spin up other instances of those and use those in different geographical locations. The Azure network's got them everywhere pretty much. Score indicators are an interesting one. Is it percentage best? Would people want to configure those themselves? It's possible. I think you probably also get to the point where if you've got templates in the system, like a library of templates, you're probably going to start assigning the templates to specific tasks. So people know specifically which template to use on which task, which also help the AI pick up which one. And of course, what we've discussed before, does it sit alongside a manual check as well as the AI check? And an interesting one I always think is there an appetite for this to sit outside of Method Grid? Is this an application that could just integrate into Copilot? And it's something that just works naturally in Word there. I think, always worth exploring that area. Okay, so a question from Gareth: would we considered CDEs beyond SharePoint? Yes, so there's a lot of them. We know that. So we have currently in Method Grid, we have kind of the top, what you would think of when you think of a document management system: SharePoint, OneDrive, Google Drive. We have Dropbox as well. We're currently working with a client to bring in some of the Bentley CDEs. But in terms of storing the document in the CDE and putting that link into Method Grid, when you have an integration with these CDEs, it's more or less just using the user's login for that CDE to fetch that document and provide a link to it. It's then using the same authentication to grab that document and send it up to the model to use. So while there's all these, 100 different CDEs that could be used, the process of it going to get it and bringing it up is largely the same. So you can integrate with these. Well, I want to say fairly easy. Some are easier than others.
Yeah, certainly from the AI perspective, the AI doesn't care, or the AI doesn't even know where the documents originally come from, whether that's SharePoint, Google Drive, or wherever. The AI doesn't know, and it doesn't need to know. It's, as Jody said, that's kind of an initial step, is just getting the document from wherever. And how easy that is, it depends a lot on the provider of those things.
The provider's API and access to it and test environments, things like that. Okay, so let's move on now. Hopefully that's sort of how people have to think about some other questions. If you do have them, feel free to put them in. I'll put the other poll live. So this is something we've been calling internally AI template dynamics or AI document drafting. So this, we don't have a working prototype of this, but we have prototyped it through design iterations. So this is taking it back a step and saying, well, if someone's filling in this template and they put it up for insurance, and part of that quality assurance is we're giving them the option to adjust what they've written using AI, the logical thing is to go back a few steps and actually have AI create the document with you. So it's coaching you through the creation of that document. So standard kind of problem statement, people are often just presented with, I don't know, a 20-page Word template. They then got to fill out, it'll have guidance in it. It might not have guidance in it. The quality you're going to get from different people, it's always varied. We all know it is going to come up in different ways. So users will know how to write, but it's almost like that, tapping someone on the shoulder. Could you just check this for me, or give me a hand with this? Can AI kind of fill in for that and help people go through this template? Because again, in the template, you've written a prompt specifically for the AI to help it understand what should go in each section. So instead of them being presented with often will be a blank template, or it will be a blank template with, write this in here, fill in the gaps. You would upload the template, and in each section heading, we would have the prompt, which would then help the AI guide the user through each section and fill it in. So again, I put the poll live if you want to take part in that. Is there something, do you sympathize with that? Would it be helpful? AI helping people fill in templates, right? It's a pretty classic use of an LLM. So here again, you see it work in the same way. There is the template in the element. The user clicks the AI button next to the template, which triggers the AI and says, I want to now complete that template for the purposes of this work package or whatever this particular element is. The AI then picks it up and it reads those initial prompts, and then it starts to ask questions. I don't know if you've got anything to say about the kind of the way the prompts might work in this, Mark.
I think the only important point to make is it's kind of getting these from the template itself again. So you are very much in control of what the AI is using to kind of form the conversation it's going to have with you, and what criteria it's going to use to kind of judge or to write, in this case, the content. Yeah,
I think that's probably what we think is quite sensible, dare I say, clever about it, is we're not all this kind of setting of how the AI is going to interact with your template is all kind of just comfortably in your Word document. It's not like you have to go upload into some system and then manically configure each section and all this. The AI is clever enough. If we tell it in the prompt that Mark engineers, all you got to do is look through this Word document, find the headings. There will be a prompt underneath. Use this to then guide the user through it. So you can see there in the first design screenshot that it's worked out that what grid it's in. So that's given it the project name, the particular element it's in, and it knows it's now taken the template. So it's got an idea. It knows it's doing a procurement strategy report. It's picking up the first prompt and it's saying, well, my first heading is project objectives, and let's begin. And it will come back based on the information it finds in the element, the information it finds from the grid information. It will know, maybe we've labeled this, it's a certain type of construction project. It's a certain type of risk, whatever it's going to be. It then uses that information that's contained in the grid to make that initial start in the template. And that section heading will guide it as to how it wants to format what it's going to put in there, bulleted list, whatever it's going to do. It will come back, present that in the chat interface, and the user can then essentially interact with this AI to either make a change if they're not happy with what's come back, tweak it, or to continue to the next section.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make this point again. for about the 5th time now. You know, it's not the AI writing the document. It's you using AI as a tool to help you write the document.
Yeah.
I think that's quite an important distinction that we always want to make.
Yeah, it's not receiving a blank page. It's definitely receiving what you as an organization have told it should be in this template. And that's what's
and indeed what you are telling it in the conversation you're having with it.
Yeah. So the user will be able to say, actually, this is more important to do this, more important to do that, and we can tweak and go through it.
Yeah.
So you can see how it will, you know, if you've got 10 headings in this document, you're going to get sort of 10 prompts, go backwards and forwards until you decide. And so when you're given the option at each section to say, yes, that's good, commit that, and it goes next section, and then eventually it will give you the document ready to download, or if you're in method grid, so add it to the element maybe as file evidence, and it could go in there. And then of course it could in theory go into the QA tool at that point if you are uploading it as file evidence. So you've joined these two up, but two AI tools working in tandem. You've got helping them draft it, goes up to the task as file evidence, gets a quality assurance, come back. If there's anything they then want to tweak, it kind of goes back into this model that's helping them create the template until they're happy. And then of course it can go for any kind of manual check, but at least the manual check knows that it's going to have met a certain score that you've defined before it comes anywhere near someone looking at it. So Frank's asking, what is its accuracy score? I wonder if you mean, do you mean, Frank, type if I get this wrong, do you mean the accuracy of how well it's completing a section in a template, or perhaps the quality score?
I will speak generally about that, and I think this isn't at the stage yet where we've reached where we're actually evaluating kind of how well this works in practice, but certainly that would be a big concern when we move further on, is how do we evaluate how well this AI is doing this task. And it's a big question in AI research generally. How do you quantitatively evaluate a language model? And there isn't really a good answer to that. I wouldn't say. There's some sort of quantitative metrics people try to use. There's one called perplexity that kind of gets referenced a lot, but it's not really that good. And then you have all these kind of LLM, leaderboards, where it's essentially just that you get feedback from humans and they tell you how good it is, and that kind of informs your evaluation. And I think the answer is broadly a lot of human evaluation of how well these things are doing. I think if we were going to move towards some sort of quantitative measurements, one of the things we've talked about is when the AI gives you some feedback, either that is a category, conformance, non-conformance, etc., or an actual score, potentially once you build up a data set of how humans would evaluate that, and then comparing that with the AI's feedback would be one way of trying to get a quantitative evaluation of this. But yeah, it's certainly a difficult one with language models specifically. How do you quantitatively evaluate them? And it's something we're very aware of. And I think broadly the answer is a lot of human evaluation.
Yeah, that's good. You got that exactly right. So well done, Mark. that was the question. Another question from Dom is triggered by Osman's great question. Potential conflict of AI marking own homework. If we get both sides of this equation, i.e. drafting support and compliance checks, is there a technical imperative, or maybe just a case of best practice, to ensure different LLMs are being used either side in much the same way as model prompt evaluation most effective when using an alternative model to the primary model?
It's a very interesting question. I think certainly using different models for different tasks is generally a good thing, especially models that have been fine-tuned on a specific task. If we did start going down the route of fine-tuning a model specifically for document evaluation, then certainly yes, that'd be a great way to do it. In terms of using different different models. I mean, the first point to make, I don't think this is implied by the question at all, but is if you ask an LLM to generate some content, and then in a separate conversation ask it to evaluate the content, it doesn't know that it's content that it wrote itself. So it's, you know what I mean? It's not aware that it's judging its own content. But certainly there's an argument to be made that, if it writes in a certain way, in a certain style, perhaps it's got a predisposition to judge that style more positively. But certainly it would be worth having a look at, as we were just talking about the Frank's question, how do we evaluate these things? Certainly that would be something that'd be worth looking at. Do different models, are they better at evaluation, or are the ones better at writing things? Indeed, if you write something with the help of one AI model, does the same AI model tend to rate it higher? Off the top of my head, I don't know what the answer to that is, but it's a very interesting question. It's certainly something to be worth looking into.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to. I mean, it's like you said in the previous question as well. It is human evaluation, a lot of it, to say yes, you've done a good job on that one. No, you've not done such a good job on that one, and eventually it figures it out. I mean, you can see actually in the UI there, we did sort of play around with a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of approach to whether we think what it's sent back is good. So I think you can see how that could be built in, that kind of check to see, tell the AI whether it's doing a good job, pat on the head sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, there was some other, I mean, clearly they're quite similar AI tools at the end of the day. One's writing it, one's evaluating it, and then passing it back to writing it. I'll leave that there for a minute in case that triggers any other thoughts or questions as we come to the end. So that is the two demos. So quality assurance, compliance, as you configure it, depending, and actually creating templates, guiding users through the best way to fill in a template. If you do have any other questions or you want to take part in the poll, please do. If there is nothing else, Mark, is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, just looking at those questions there, I think they want to pick out what's the confidence trust level in AI. And I think there's, whenever we talk about trust with AI, there's kind of two lenses you can look at it from, right? There's one, in that question of what's the AI doing with my documents? Is it safe? Is it being used to train any models? Is there a danger that it's going to then start telling someone else about my document? That's a one big thing that we've talked about with the kind of, with Method Grid, at least, with our kind of Azure UK based secure infrastructure. The other thing to talk about with AI and trust is, can I trust the AI's output? Like, will it be any good? If an AI gives me some feedback on a document, how do I know that feedback is high quality, is going to be good? How assured should I feel, essentially, based on the AI's feedback? And I think generally, we're always going to make a point of these things. They're part of a larger package of conformance or assurance that includes human assurance as well. And also, the other thing to say, it's going to vary depending on what domain you're working in. There's going to be some domains that are highly sensitive, on very high levels of sort of standards and compliance, where maybe in those environments you're less likely to trust what an AI said, just because the stakes are so much higher. Versus, sometimes you're writing a document that it sort of doesn't matter that much if and then in those situations, maybe you can rely on the AI a little bit more, because even if it is wrong, the consequences aren't as high. So it's gonna how much you should trust an AI model in terms of its output, at least. It's going to vary by what domain you're working in and what specific task you're going to be working on.
That's good. It's interesting stuff. Thanks, Mark. We haven't got any questions at the moment. I'll let it sort of pause there. So we're coming to the end here. So, just to say thanks very much for joining us. There'll be a recording if you missed it, or you just want to play it back and focus in on a particular part of it. That'll be available shortly after it finishes. Keep an eye on the website for the next webinar. There'll be one coming up soon. I think Tom is going to write something in the chat now about all this as well. I can see him typing furiously. So we'll let Tom type that in. But just to say, if you want to join in, we do where we first demoed this challenge and where we asked people for challenge was part of our GRIDtalk live event. So we do GRIDtalks as webinars, which you're in right now. We do once a year, we do a live event in Bath to which we invite clients. And it was during that we asked for these kind of what project delivery challenges could be solved by AI. And this prototype came out of that. We will be exploring it further, both prototypes, the document drafting and the assurance. So we could well be in touch with you to talk through features that you would like to see form part of this. What is the MVP for this? That would be conversations that will be happening very soon. Okay, yeah, Tom's put up some information there at the end. Yeah, feels free. If you've got any other questions or anything, please feel free to email Tom. He'll see that they get through to us. Follow us on LinkedIn, standard social thing. And there we go. I think we're there. So thanks very much, Mark.
Pleasure. Cheers. Thanks very much.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. And we'll see you in the next one.
Cheers.
Bye for now.